Oh God, this guy again? Really?
Alright y'all, so welcome to my tattoo tour. If you're watching this video, this probably means that you are interested in tattoos, you have questions about them, anything of that sort. And so today I'm going to try to cover as much as I can about my tattoos and about my experience and see if they can help you along the road. Precursor. If you're not a fan of tattoos, if you think they're ugly or disgusting or only prisoners or deviants have them, that's perfectly okay. You are entitled to your own opinion as a human being, and in my eyes, I think you should allow a human being to do whatever they want with their body as long as it doesn't affect anyone else in a negative way or a harmful way. Then why judge? And if you don't like tattoos, I don't know why you're watching this video, but maybe I can help change your mind. I think tattoos are a beautiful form of self-expression, of creative expression, and I'm gonna get into it today. So I'm gonna show you the ups and downs, pain, pricing, tips I have, mistakes I made, artists you should look into, and stuff like that. So let's get right into it. And so when you look at my sleeve, it actually looks like one kind of cohesive piece, but I went piece by piece by piece. It took a long time. Looking back, I would recommend just going with one or two artists. They're gonna be able to create that vision a little bit better. I was just lucky that the artist I did go with had that ability to use composition, and it would just make the process a lot easier. So the first piece I got was my Roman numeral piece right here on my collarbone. I got it at Epic Tattoos. The tattoo artist that did it was named Bill. It was just a walk-in tattoo, so I didn't really know much about making appointments in advance and stuff like that. So I went in, it was on my birthday, my 18th birthday, and I went with my mom, and it's the date, January 30th, 2013, and that was the date that I had my brain surgery. So I figured I knew I wanted a tattoo, but I didn't know if I wanted to have something that was super significant to me or something I thought was cool. I just wanted some ink. And so I figured I would start with something that has the most meaning to me in my life, and that was the date that I had my brain surgery. So I did that, and it didn't hurt that bad. When it got kind of closer to the collarbone area, it started hurting a little bit, but you kind of have an idea of what a tattoo is gonna feel like before. You've heard that it might hurt. Some people say it does hurt, some people say it doesn't hurt. And I don't know, I think I was expecting it to be worse than it actually was, but I don't know, I guess you just have like serotonin and endorphins rushing through your body and you're so excited to get it. So like now with later tattoos, I'm kind of more of a bitch to the pain, but at this time, I didn't really think it was that bad. And it was pretty quick. I think it took about an hour to an hour and a half. It was $120, which I thought was pretty expensive at the time, but something you gotta know about tattoos and about quality tattoos is that you pay for what you get. Okay, so after I got my Roman numeral tattoo, I was hooked, I was addicted, I wanted more. And so my next tattoo after that was a little bit more impulsive. I had like $70 in my account. I was broke as fuck. I was working at Best Buy in high school. I was 18 years old. I went to some random tattoo shop. I don't even remember the name or the artist, unfortunately. It's covered up now. It was a compass, just a simple line piece compass right on my inner forearm. I'll put a picture up there of that. And I don't know, I just thought it was cool. I really value traveling and I want to travel the world one day. That's one of my top goals. And so I figured I'd commemorate that in a way and just, I guess really just an excuse to get some more ink. Artist was really good and the artwork turned out, you know, how it was supposed to. But later on, as I'll explain, it wasn't what I wanted long term. And that's the thing about tattoos is they're permanent. So make sure that it's going to be something that you really want, or it's a quality of art that's just incredible and that you want to collect and wear on your body for the rest of your life. So after that, I had 2 tattoos. Of course, I was itching for some more. So the next paycheck I got, I went and got my 3rd tattoo, which is right on my inner arm here. It's not with the theme of the rest of my pieces, as I'll get into later, but it was just a simple geometric feather tattoo. Still really good artwork. I mean, he did great, and I was just really interested in geometric and designs, and I thought that's what I wanted to go with. I wasn't really thinking that I was gonna have a sleeve, but I was just kind of collecting pieces. I believe it was $150. And even for the smaller designs, a lot of artists will either charge by piece or by the hour, depending on how big of a project it is. And so the feather was $150. Really, it ended up costing me $400 because I took my mom's car down to Dallas to get this tattoo, and I parked it in a fucking Taco Bell parking lot. So when I come out of the tattoo shop, you know, I got all my endorphins rushing. I'm like, cool, just got a new badass piece, and my car is gone. So someone towed my ass in Dallas, had to call an Uber. We drove through Greenville, which is like one of the sketchiest parts of Dallas. It was at some like really bad impound. Went through this area and there was like, I don't want to say gangs, but it was like 50 dudes just lined up in the street, and like we had to drive right past them. The girl was like hitting the lock button like 400 times. And so that wasn't a good experience. So really the tattoo ended up costing me like $400 after it was all said and done. But hey, you know, it's all about the experience. It's all about the experience. It took maybe an hour to an hour and a half. I think the longest part was just the little line work that you had to do. I mean, really meticulous. But besides that, it was one of the quicker tattoos I've had. And so after that, I waited a few months, and then of course I got another tattoo. So I went to Anaheim, California. I have a buddy that lives down there, and I saw the Redwood trees, and I just thought they were amazing. And I got this on the back of my arm. Looking back, I mean, it is one of my more basic tattoos. This is kind of a popular design. Not this exact design, but the concept is a little more popular. I actually had to get this touched up. The artist did it. He did a good job, but it just wasn't really up to par with what I wanted to do. So I had another artist go in and touch it up and add some detail. So really, this bad boy ended up costing me like over $300. It probably came out at 3 hours total for this, and still one of the quicker pieces out of my collection. And as I've kind of gotten more tattoos, I really want unique, original designs, but I still don't regret it. I think looking back at these tattoos when I was younger gives me a perspective. It allows me to remember a time in my life, where I was, what I was doing, the memories I was creating at that time. So no regrets, baby, no regrets. After I got the tree, I did a bunch of research. You know, I wanted to find some of the best artists, and so I went on Instagram and I found a shop called Dark Age Tattoo, where they had this amazing 3D realism artist, and I just fell in love with the work. I mean, it looked like real pictures. And so I found an artist I really liked named Capone, and I sent him an email. These guys are booked up for a long time, so you have to really be patient when you're going with these guys. It's not a quick process. And I told him I wanted a rose piece. And so I went in, we did the whole design process. It's really cool with these pieces because when it comes to realism, what they'll do is they'll Photoshop a design. So unlike a traditional tattoo or a line work tattoo where the artist will draw every part of it out and then stencil that, they Photoshop real pictures onto a computer, and they use an iPad to go in with like a little pencil and write out all the details. And then once they get that to where they want it, they'll print it out on like a piece of paper, and that turns that into a stencil. And so once they put the stencil on you, they'll be looking at the actual picture as they're tattooing. And it's a really cool process. And so I went with the rose right here on my forearm. It took in total, first pass was probably about 12 hours. So with these pieces, there's so much detail and design and composition and light and dark tones and hot and cold tones and a lot of different like artistic angles that they take. So they really take their time. A good thing of that is that you're gonna get a beautiful artistic piece. A downside is that they charge by hour, so it will be pretty expensive. But I think after tip and everything, it came out to be around $600 for the rose piece. And so after the rose piece, I was hooked. I knew I loved realism. It came out, I got so many compliments about it. I knew I wanted to keep with this theme and with this design. I was kind of had a theme coming to my head. And so I loved the rose and how it resembled the beauty of life. And so I got a skull next by another artist that I really was a big fan of at Dark Age Tattoo. And we did the skull on my inner forearm. So I was kind of building around. I got lucky, y'all, that it came out the way it did, because it's really hard to do just to build piece by piece, especially by different artists. But there were so many artists that I loved, and I wanted to collect these amazing pieces by different artists, different experiences and stories. And so I got the skull with some smoke coming out. It was really a badass design. You gotta be willing to work with the artist, you know, so you come with an idea. If I had my whole sleeve exactly how I had it planned out in my head, it would have looked a lot different and a lot shittier. That's why these artists are so amazing, is they have that vision. I love the detail that came out in that smoke, and I thought it was really cool. And so it kind of contrasted, you know, with the rose and with the skull. It was kind of like life and death, and I really liked that theme. And so I have, you know, as we go through my pieces, there are some themes, and there are some I just collected for artistic purposes. This was probably one of my most painful tattoos, just because there's so much black, especially around my wrist, and it took, I think, about 7 to 8 hours. Just the first session, there was 3 sessions on it. The dark blacks and how long you have to go over these areas to get the shading and to get the blacks really packed into your skin without it, you know, leaking out over healing. It's pretty intense. And so yeah, this was probably one of the most painful tattoos I got. So after the skull, I kind of wanted to keep with the life and death theme, and so I got a little filler piece right here by Capone, and that was the Hourglass. I thought it fit really well into that little wrist area, and it's kind of based around the concept of time and how, you know, we only have a limited time here. I talk about it in my brain surgery video. I think you should live every day to your fullest because you never know when it's your last day. And I don't know, it sounds basic, but I thought it was cool. And so that's what I did with that. I think this piece was around $400, and that was because my artist gave me a little cut. That's the cool thing. Once you get in with these artists and you develop a relationship with them, they'll hook it up. They'll be able to get you in a lot quicker than the first time. So after my Hourglass piece, I went with a filler piece back right behind my tree, and this is a little dove. This was done by a private tattoo artist in Dallas. It was done out of he had this badass high rise and he tattooed out of there. And so we did this little dove back here. It was a really cool experience. And I think this piece took about 5 hours to complete, and I just thought it looked really cool how it filled in next to this tree and kind of went with that theme. And the dove didn't hurt that bad. When it got close to my elbow, that's when it really started getting sensitive and it started being pretty painful. But overall, I mean, I was just so excited to get the piece that I didn't even care about the pain at that point. So after the dove piece, we moved on to my favorite piece. It was this big boy right here, Poseidon with a badass cathedral rose behind it. His hands kind of gripping that trident. Got a little bit of subtle color in there, but really just black and gray. Now this piece, the story behind it's a little interesting. It was a collab done at the Dallas Tattoo Convention. You know, at the time I was childish and I was immature and I was young going into this. So I kind of had a fallout with Remember at the beginning. He was unhappy with me, but we worked through it. I ended up seeing him the last 2 sessions and I paid him and I hooked him up as much as I could. So now he's the homie. Long story short, just don't be childish when you're contacting these really good artists. You gotta be mature about the whole process. This piece I got second place in the overall. Took 3 days, 25 hours. I was sitting there eating like 1 piece of jerky. I don't even know how I did it. Came out beautiful and I loved it. So remember, shout out, you're the homie. Pooch, he did some work on it too, and shout out to them. So that was an awesome experience. Learned, grew from it, and got a really, really cool piece of art right here. So after my Poseidon piece, I essentially had a sleeve. I had some little gaps that I had filled in. I'll talk about that later. Abstract skull. It's following a similar style as another artist who does a similar kind of abstract, like monster style. And it was by my boy Sonny. He said he just wanted to fill in that little area. And so he free-handed it. I had the trust in him that he would just put something dope back there, and that's what he did. This little piece back here took just probably 3 hours. I think it was around $400 to $500. Yeah. So after the abstract skull, I went with the cover-up piece. And now the reason I wanted to cover up the compass wasn't because I didn't like the piece, but basically what happened was I was serving tables one day and I had a friend of mine come in and she asked to see my compass piece. And so I showed her, and she was turning 18 soon. And so she looked at her mom and she's like,
I want that exact piece right there on the exact area.
And I was just like, fuck. And you know, I don't think, you know, if someone likes a piece and they want it and you have it, I mean, that's cool. I don't have anything against that, but something about just having a piece on me, and I saw when she turned 18 and she got the exact compass in the exact spot, and I don't know, I wanted to have something that was original and completely one of a kind, and so I was like, all right, fuck this, like I want to cover this up. It wasn't flowing with the rest of my pieces, and that was just like the straw on the camel's back. So I contacted an artist named Quinn Hernandez. He is awesome. I want him to do my entire right sleeve one day, and I fell in love with his work. He's a great artist and great guy. And I hit him up and I said, hey, you know, I'm getting these really cool realism pieces, but I have this little compass right here that's bothering me. Maybe we could cover it up. And he came up with this design. I told him that I wanted some Gothic architecture similar to this back here. He said that he was willing to do it. So I drove 4.5 hours down to Texarkana to see him, and we started chopping. And so we got this bad boy, which is one of my most favorite pieces. I mean, the fact that it's a cover up and it looks like it was printed on, I mean, it's insane what these artists are able to do nowadays. And so he banged this boy out in 8 hours, and I think this is one of my favorite pieces, one that gets the most compliments, and it hurt like a bitch. This crevice right here is one of the most sensitive parts of the arm, especially with so much black and just packing in that detail. It hurt really bad, but I got an amazing piece from it. These artists are just, you know, you have great conversations with all of them and you really develop a friendship with these guys. So after I got this cover up right here, I basically had a full sleeve. I just had this little gap right here that I wanted to fill in, and it was bothering me, and I was lucky that Quinn wanted to do it. He was willing and able to go in there, and so it was just a simple little filigree filler, and I love it. I think it makes the whole sleeve flow and really pop, and The artwork is incredible, and so shout out Quinn for going in on that. I believe it was only around $400. It took just a couple hours, and you know, Quinn hooked it up. It was amazing. And then so the last piece I got right before I came down to college was on my leg, and it is a portrait, a rose, and then it has some filigree down there, and it was done by an artist in Houston who just absolutely killed the game. His story is just really incredible, really nice guy. Yeah, I wanted to get a start on a leg sleeve, and that was my last hoorah. I think it cost me a little bit over $1,000. I got a good deal with him because he really wanted to do the piece, and he cut me a discount, so shout out Pretty Boy. It probably was the most painful tattoo. I don't know if it was because it was around the knee, it really hurt really bad, or around my ankle, or the fact that I was laying there for 13 hours straight, non-stop, just getting poked at. But the leg by far was very painful. I wouldn't do any of it over again. I love my tattoos. I'm planning on getting a bunch more. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can and as detailed as I can. And yeah, stick along for the journey, see what piece I get next. And as always, thanks for watching today's video. I'll catch you next time.